Hey everyone, today we're looking at Expedition 33 on the most powerful 8-inch handheld, the Onexfly APEX, which has the AMD AI Max Plus 395, which is an absolute beast. So we're going to try this at numerous settings and various TDP on battery as well as plugged in. We're going to start things off though with our 80 watt test. We're going to be at 1200p EPEX settings, frame generation on for this first test, and FSR quality, just to give us a baseline of what it looks like at top settings and with the optimization. And we seem to be at about 80 FPS, using the frame generation. So keep in mind, this is frame gen FPS, not natural. So between 80 to 90, which is a pretty good experience. I haven't had too many problems with frame gen on this game, so probably worth trying out. Now moving to high settings, we have turned off frame generation, we have FSR set to quality, and we're at 1200p still. And with these settings, we don't quite get 60 FPS, so it would be ideal to have 60 if we could, especially with the pairing system in this game. Like, as accurate as you can get with it, the better, and having a higher frame rate certainly helps with that. So we're going to adjust things down to medium and see what that does. And with the same settings, except for medium, now we're into the 60s. And the nice thing about this test is this area in the beginning of the game is actually one of the heaviest areas that you'll encounter. So if we're doing okay in this area, we should be fine for, I would say, the majority of the game, if not the entire game. Now shifting down to low settings, we're at about 70 FPS. We do dip down into the 60s on occasion, but for the most part, we seem to be a fairly solid 70 FPS. We could probably stick with medium, but if you want full stability, this one is not going to drop below 60. I can say for most certain that you're going to be fine. But we're going to continue trying things out. We're going to switch over to our battery mode in case you're taking this on the go. And we'll start off with the highest settings just to kind of work our way down. And we're at EPEX settings, 1200p, frame gen off, and FSR quality. And with these settings, we're in the high 30s, not quite 40. I don't think it really even touched out. It just got to 40. But it's, not going to go into the 40s. So we're going to shift it down to high settings and see what that does. That gained us about 10 FPS, give or take. We're at the high 40s, sometimes into the 50s. And now we're going to drop down to medium. And again, we're seeing another increase of about 10 FPS. So we're in the mid 50s, sometimes getting close to 60, but we're not really holding 60 at any time here. So we're going to shift it down to low settings, and if you're wanting to have a 60 FPS experience with no frame gen, this is going to be what you're going to have to do. It's not a locked 60 because we are dropping down into the high 50s, but it's still pretty close. And in most of the game, you'd be at 60 FPS. We're going to drop things down to 45 watts now, and we're just going to stick with low settings for this first test to see how it does. And this is actually pretty decent. Like, we're really close to 60 FPS. Again, this is the heaviest spot that I've found in the game, so I think in the normal playthrough, you should be fine. Now we're going to shift things down further to 30 watts. We're going to start off with FSR set to quality. We're going to stick with low settings though. And with this, we're at about 50 FPS, sometimes the high 40s. So we're probably going to have to adjust things. What we're going to do next is we're going to turn up FSR and see how that does. So we'll try out balanced first. And with balanced, it's not enough to get us to 60. We're in the 50s now though, but low 50s. So we'll quickly adjust things to performance mode and see what that does. And still not at the 60s, we're at like mid 50s. So we're pretty close, but we're not quite there. In normal playthrough, you may actually be at 60 FPS, but we're going to jump things down to 800p here. And at 30 watts, with performance settings, everything seems to be in the 60s. So you're probably going to want to go down to 800p if you're playing at 30 watts. So now we're going to adjust things to FSR balance to give a bit of a cleaner image here. And what we're getting here is in the mid 60s. So this is actually a good option, and it doesn't look terrible. So we're going to drop our battery even further to see how far we can push this. We're at 20 watts now with FSR set to balanced at 800p. And this is a pretty big drop. Like, we're at 30s. So it's not going to quite pull it off. But what we can do is turn our FSR down to performance. It's a bit of an ugly image, but we're in the 40s, which should give us enough of a baseline to turn on frame generation. And now with frame generation on, we're in the 80s. The image isn't super crisp because of the high FSR and low resolution, but if you're trying to save battery, like, this may be your option. If you're on a flight, you want to get that extra battery life, you do what you got to do. We're going to try 15 watts, and this might be pushing the limit just a little too far. because we're not getting 60 FPS with everything turned like all the way down and having frame gen. So we're going to turn off frame generation, and really we're just going to be aiming for a 30 FPS experience here with our settings pretty bare bones. So I wouldn't recommend playing at the setting because of the parrying system. So that's going to wrap it up for this one. If you haven't checked out our Handhelds United Discord, I strongly recommend checking out. There's a QR code on screen, and I'm going to link it down below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.